So on some cryptid videos, I get some interesting comments with different theories and ideas, or maybe even further evidence that wasn't touched upon in the particular cryptid video. Some even suggest making a part 2 for a specific cryptid, like I did with the original Megalodon video and its follow-up. But I think I might be able to roll a few of them into one video and just respond to and take a deeper look at some cryptid comments. So for this video, I'm going to look back at some cryptid ideas, theories, and maybe even some new evidence. So I'm going to start with one that I thought was a really good point. It would be fantastic, but seriously, there's very little hope. If the Thylacine did survive out in the bush back in 1935, there should be at least a small population today, 90 years later. Take the European bison. It was down to 56 species after World War II, as far as I remember, and there's about 10,000 today. Again, by memory. If the Thylacine should have survived back then, there should be a population of a size that they shouldn't be completely difficult to spot out in the wild. The bison get one calf a year, and the Thylacine are bound to have a bigger litters. Interesting point. Of course, a thylacine and a European bison are different animals, but I think the concept of a population bouncing back seems to make sense. I guess to determine how well they might bounce back, we have to look a bit at their reproduction. According to the website Natural Worlds, the thylacine has a gestation period estimated at about 28 days, and mating would occur from April to September. They also apparently could have up to 4 young and were sexually mature at about 2 to 3 years old. And as we know, something that caused the decline and extinction was the bounty put on the Tasmanian tiger, as thousands were hunted and killed. Of course, there were other factors such as disease and habitat loss, but if there really was a surviving population in a remote part of Tasmania, wouldn't the population recover a little in the decades and decades they haven't been hunted? Would they still really be trapped in a small population equilibrium? Now don't get me wrong, I do think it's likely that there were some thylacine in the wild after 1936, but it's very difficult for an animal to avoid extinction if the population numbers remain very low for a long time. Well, what if they did recover and they're just in remote regions of Tasmania? Well, maybe, but let's not forget that there have been many searches. The Twitter account Legendary Cryptids, aka Truth is Scarier Than Fiction, and Darren Naish have been talking a little bit on Twitter about the amount of searches that have occurred for the Tasmanian tiger. By the way, follow me on Twitter, I guess. But basically, Truth/Legendary Cryptids pointed out that there have been at least 18 organized hunts for thylacines, 11 in Tasmania, and probably many more smaller searches, and so far no substantial evidence. I hope the thylacine is still alive somewhere, be it in Tasmania, mainland Australia, or PNG, but I fear it may be gone. Moving on. One cryptid that seems to be stuck in the modern zeitgeist is living Megalodon. As covered in previous videos, I've never really seen any good evidence for the living Meg theory, but apparently new evidence has come out since I made those Megalodon videos. Well, not really. In September of 2022, the Atlantic Shark Institute picked up an image on a scanner that resembled a 50-foot or 15.24 meter shark, which is pretty big, but it wasn't actually a shark. To quote the team themselves, "We waited for one of the rods to go off. However, much to our disappointment, the shape started to transition into a large school of Atlantic mackerel that hung around the boat for about 15 minutes. So it wasn't a Meg, but I've already seen this evidence being inserted into top 10 reasons the Megalodon is still alive videos. And I think, just like the misstated teeth, this is going to be repeated again and again, no matter how many times it's debunked. Next, I have a specific comment about Megalodon, though similar ideas have been expressed about other large water cryptids. Okay, so say the Meg was still out there, but it's a bit rare. Let's say that many governments know that it is out there. Many people love the ocean, they love surfing and swimming. This has burgeoned into quite the boon for coastal cities, especially during the summer months. A lot of people do not tend to think about sharks, unless there has been recent sightings or attacks. but throw in a shark that can swallow people whole, and that is out there, and at least some people might decide that there are other places to vacation where there are not things that can swallow you down in one gulp. It will be better for the economy to keep those kind of things from the public, especially if the things are fairly rare anyway. Thanks for the comment, and that's an interesting idea, but I don't think it really works. There are definitely many examples of government cover-ups throughout history, but the more people you have involved in a cover-up or a conspiracy, the more likely you are to get a leak, especially when you have multiple governments around the world working together. The other thing is, it might be pretty hard to cover up. Millions and millions of people enter the ocean every year, and there are quite a lot of ships out there too. According to the Review of Maritime Transport 2022, the quote, total fleet of seagoing merchant vessels amounted to 102,899 of 100 gross tons and above. And imagine all the smaller boats. And not only that, but a lot of people live by the coast. Yes, I realize meg teeth have been found in the middle of the ocean, but a lot of them have been found around the coast too, so surely they would have spent a reasonable amount of time around the coasts. Today we have 17 megacities. So a megacity is a city with more than 10 million people. Anyway, out of 17 megacities on Earth, 14 are on the coast. I've seen videos from conflict zones or from illegal protests that governments would prefer we didn't see. But with the internet and social media, videos and pictures can spread like wildfire. I think it would be difficult to prevent someone from taking a photo or video of a meg and sharing it online. And finally, I don't think it makes sense for them to hide it. A lot of people are afraid of encountering great whites or tiger sharks or bull sharks, but it's all public information that they exist, even around states like Florida where millions of people go to the beaches to swim. So why not cover up any and every predatory shark? I mean, the meg is bigger, but does that really matter? I mean, if anything, it would probably give it even less reason to go for a human, as I can't imagine a 50 to 60 foot shark would get much nutrition from eating a person. And I just think over a certain size, a predatory shark would be scary to people. Like, would someone who is terrified of a 50-foot meg happily go swimming with a 20-foot great white? I doubt it. Interesting comment, and maybe you're onto something, but to me, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Now you might be thinking, hold on, an anaconda isn't a cryptid. Well, I've read some cryptid books that talk about giant anacondas, and there has also been a lot of buzz about a new species of anaconda recently discovered. So I talked about this a little bit on the podcast, but basically this discovery was made when DNA testing revealed that there was a 5.5% difference between green anacondas towards the south and green anacondas that lived further north. 5% may not sound like a lot, but it is pretty significant. The leader of the study, Brian Fry, pointed out that humans differ from chimpanzees by only about 2%. So just to be clear though, it's not that no one had ever seen a green anaconda in Ecuador before, it's just we didn't realize until now that they were a different species from the green anacondas in, let's say, Brazil. They pretty much look and act the same, except that the ones in Ecuador, the northern green anacondas, are bigger. Uh-oh. Do I need to redo the anaconda video for the 4th time? Do they really get to 30 feet after all? Well, maybe, but let's take this piece by piece. So, for green anacondas, females are bigger than males, and a 5 meter or 16.4 foot female is considered to be pretty big, but they do get bigger. So how big were the anacondas they found? Well, the biggest they measured was 6.3 meters, 21 feet, which is a very, very big snake. But there were stories of a snake 7.5 meters, 24.6 feet long, but it wasn't measured. Now, one of the local Waorani people had bite marks from an anaconda that did seem to be bigger than the biggest one the team caught and measured. But they weren't able to measure it, so I don't think we can really say for certain. But I've seen many reports saying new species of snake discovered, confirmed to be the world's largest at 7.5 meters, 24.6 feet. It's been posted on a few cryptid subreddits and forums too, and sometimes with the heading 26-foot snake confirmed. And that seems to come from a different snake. Professor Freek Funk, a Dutch biologist and herpetologist, released a video on his Instagram swimming next to a huge anaconda. Now, the previous 24-footer is a different snake, I think, because they only heard stories about that snake, the bitey one, and didn't capture any video or anything. So let's call that Snake A. The one with the video is Snake B, a different snake, I think. And Snake B is supposed to be even bigger, 26 feet apparently. That's the number that keeps coming up anyway. But where did it come from? The original video was posted by Professor Funk on his Instagram, and he wrote a description beside it which states, "Her length is difficult to estimate, but if you consider that I am 196 centimeters tall, you will see that this is really a giant." So it wasn't measured, and he doesn't actually give a number, at least not in this post, and he says it is difficult to estimate, but she is a giant. So someone, possibly not even the professor, gave the 26 feet or 8 meter length. A few years ago, Forrest Galante swam with a big anaconda, and then his team captured and measured it, and it was 19 feet long, or 5.8 meters. If we compare stills, I don't know if the new snake is that much bigger, but maybe. But also, that massive snake that Professor Funk swam with was a southern anaconda. Wait, aren't they supposed to be smaller? Well, I also don't know why that is in so many news articles as well, because if we look at the original paper, which is free to read online in its entirety, it never said the northern species are bigger. In fact, it specifically says, "Our morphological data show that specimens from the northern and southern clades are indistinguishable morphologically." It seems like the media preferred to run with the story, "New species of 26-foot long giant anaconda discovered," rather than the actual point of the paper, which seemed to be more along the lines of, "More research is needed to accurately determine the conservation status of green anacondas, as we now know there is more than one species." Because while they are at least concerned right now, that's partially due to their wide range, and we now know there are 2 different species inhabiting mostly distinct parts of that range. But that's not the story that's getting posted. It's all about the big snake. And of course, and perhaps understandably, many people don't think it should be included as a cryptid and don't want to post it on cryptid forums. So what is the threshold? How big does an anaconda need to be considered a giant and therefore also a cryptid? Well, I see the 60-foot, 18-meter length being thrown around a lot, but I have a different opinion. My hot take is that the 30-foot or above should be considered a cryptid.
What?
Because all the evidence we have for an anaconda that big is from witnesses and claims. No anaconda has been measured at or close to that size yet. If a known animal at an incredible size can be considered a cryptid, then a 30-foot green anaconda should fit that criteria. Now, I do hope I'm proven wrong and that we find one that big or even bigger. So under the Sabertooth Cat sightings video, I got a variety of comments that I should have covered Sabertooth sightings in Alaska. I've heard reports of mysterious blue cats from Alaska, and even a white tiger, sometimes called White Death, that some theorize to be a variety of Amur tiger. There are actually a lot of mystery cats in North America, and maybe that's worth another entire video. But while there are sightings of saber-toothed cats further south, I haven't read too many accounts from them being in Alaska. There is this recent popular story that has been doing the rounds about a New York hunter named Colin Miller who traveled to Alaska to go hunting, and somewhere in the Alaskan wilderness he came across a fence that had keep out signs on it. Colin, however, decided to jump the fence anyway and stumbled upon some very large tiger tracks and then the saber-toothed cat that made them. And then He somehow sent out an SOS describing the cat and the prints in the snow, but was never seen from again, presumably killed by the Sabertooth. So I have a few questions. You're probably wondering, like I am, where did this story originate from? Well, it seems to have come from TikTok and YouTube shorts, because I can't find it anywhere else. The short videos have zero footage or evidence of this saber-toothed cat, and just have like a slideshow of tiger drawings. There was also an AI Joe Rogan clip telling the same story I just told you. Without any evidence, I don't really know where to go with this. I presume this is what people are referring to when they talk about saber-toothed cats being cloned in Alaska and attacking people. It weirdly sounds close to the movie idea we had on the podcast.
Gained knowledge about these creatures that are dangerous, such as saber-tooths, cave bears and stuff.
There have been similar comments about living mammoths, but that is a topic deserving of its own video. I'm sure there are more theories and ideas I haven't touched on, and maybe I'll do another one of these videos in the future. I guess we'll see how this one does. If you want more cryptid conspiracies, I highly recommend you take a look at this video from Truth is Scarier Than Fiction about Bigfoot. Thanks to all my patrons, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day.